Joining us now is Sam Nunberg. Sam, longtime political operative for Donald J. Trump, was on the Trump campaign 2015, and now he's part of Steve Bannon's C4 operations. I call it CAR, Citizens for the American Republic. They were very involved in this past election, and things were going great for us until we somehow got beat in Arizona. That's a big blow because Kyrsten Sinema, not exactly, she's very liberal, and I thought McSally was ahead. We all thought she was going to win that, but didn't turn out that way. Joining us now, we're trying to break all this down, Sam Nunberg. Sam, good to have you with us, man.
John, thank you for inviting me on.
So after the midterms, I went over to Steve Bannon's bash there in Washington, D.C. It had a lot of people there. It had a big turnout. But I want to talk about the Arizona race because we all thought we were going to win that. What happened?
You know, it's very interesting. I think Maricopa County shows what happened there, actually. It's a county that the president, I believe, beat Hillary Clinton by over 60,000 votes. And, in fact, the Governor Ducey, he won that county, yet Sinema won the county as well. So you had a lot of split tickets there. And I think that is not a national issue. You know, I heard from friends in Iowa, too, where Governor Kim Reynolds was able to win, yet we lost 2 House seats that there were split tickets. I think in that case, look, Sinema was thought of as someone who had been campaigning, an extremely good campaigner, canvasser. She was a grassroots organizer. And McSally, I thought McSally did extremely well during her primary. But the one issue was, John, is she didn't – one mistake I heard from multiple radio hosts was she wouldn't go on their shows. If you had invited her on, she wasn't going to go on. She didn't go on the Mark Levin show. She didn't go on the Hannity show. She didn't go on Fox News, I don't believe, once. So I don't understand what their thinking was there. I thought that it's very difficult when, look, in general, one of the reasons why the president was able to win the primary in 2016, and I believe had he not won, Ted Cruz would have won, was because they ran for the utmost as conservatives, as outsiders. The president ran as a conservative and an outsider. And he didn't have the problems that a John McCain or a Mitt Romney had in 2008 and 2012. McSally did have those problems. I thought she performed well in her debates. I watched them. But look, and the bottom line is remember, she was replacing Jeff Flake. And while I'm sure Jeff Flake theoretically wanted a Republican to replace him on paper, in light of the fact of the way he's acted after the election, I think that he is probably happy that a Democrat ended up taking the seat. And it was a contested thing. I had said earlier that the two most important Senate races that day of this cycle were going to be Nevada and Arizona, because if we held them, then everything else was going to be gravy. With that said, we'll see what happens. Apparently, John Kyle wants to leave in January, and Governor Ducey may install her there. I think that she could be a leader of the party, but yeah, she made some mistakes. These are typical mistakes that you and I have complained about over the years about candidates, and I don't understand what the late-term strategy was.
Well, not going on talk radio made no sense. You have a lot of candidates that they're afraid to go on talk radio. They don't really know the host. They don't vet them. But, when they're afraid of getting a tough question from a Mark Levin or a John Fredericks or whoever might be out there. But it's really a big mistake because, a Trump base listens to talk radio. Every study has shown that. I don't think that made any sense at all. I thought that was a really mistake. And she wouldn't go on Fox. They ran a kind of a keep-away campaign, and they thought if they just didn't say anything out of text or nothing, no mistakes, that it was a Republican state and they could just win. And that's just not the way it works now. So,
no, it isn't. And, one thing in general I would say is, look, these results were what I wanted. By the way, I think I saw you there at the end of the night at the party. I was so out of it, John, so I apologize for not going to say hello. I didn't even know, Steve Bannon, we did this streaming during the election. I didn't even know we were doing this until 15 minutes before we started. So, but what I would say is that I think it also goes to the fact that, look, we also lost, she also lost her House seat there that she had left, and that was a seat that we weren't going to pick up. We figured we were going to lose it from the very beginning. And she'd come from one of those districts of the 24 districts that Hillary Clinton won, which a Republican was able to keep in 2016. Of those, we only won 3 of them this time. And I think one of the main reasons that we ended up losing the House, actually a couple of reasons. The first is the bomber, the pipe bomber. It may not be fair, it may not be right, but remember, if we were looking at all these polls and these generic congressional polls, which for the most part, I do want to applaud ABC and NBC, Wall Street Journal, that they were accurate, as opposed to fake news CNN, which released a poll the Monday before the Tuesday election showing the Democrats with a 13-point generic congressional lead. Those polls contained, John, 8, 7 points towards the end, but the problem was each of those polls, and also one other private poll that I saw, you had 10% of undecided, and I don't think that we were able to. I think if they were a wash, then those are people that were probably trending towards us, but they, at the end of the day, decided to go either stay home or go with the Democrat, And these things happen. It certainly wasn't the result that I wanted. But if you look at some of the races, the Democrats had a lot of advantages. They keep complaining about gerrymandering. They had advantages in terms of those 24 House seats. They got some seats, the 24 that Hillary Clinton won, Republican won. Then they got 2 races which they should not have won. One race was typical. It was the South Carolina race where the Republican was primaried. I think he helped the Democrat win. Then you had a race in Oklahoma, which came out of nowhere, that we ended up losing. And I think that, on the other hand, too, when you look at Virginia, or you look at New Jersey, or you look at California, those were states, although California is a separate issue, those were states where we barely lost some of those races. The Dave Brat race we could have won, and the Scott Taylor race we could have won. I think both of them lost for separate reasons going into those specific races. But one of the main reasons they lost is I heard an interview, and it was very funny. I heard an interview from the DCCC, the guy running the DCCC or whatever their outside group, the main group. And one of the things he had said particularly was he didn't understand why the Congressional Leadership Fund, Paul Ryan's super PAC, where they were spending their money sometimes. And 2 of the people he had mentioned were Mike Kaufman in Colorado, and what's her name in Virginia 10? I can't even remember her name.
Barbara Comstock.
Barbara Comstock. But the same thing about both of them were they both voted against repealing Obamacare.
Right.
Of the 20 Republicans that voted against repealing Obamacare, there were 10 moderate Republicans, there were 10 conservatives. Each of those conservatives ended up winning. The 10 moderates, you had 6 retirees. We lost all those seats, and we lost the 4 that were running for re-election. But I think that that's something where I go into the money is I didn't understand this. I'm not out to look. We don't have Paul Ryan, frankly, to kick around anymore. I don't think he made the specific decision, but don't tell me that money couldn't have been better spent, that they spent on Comstock to Dave Brat.
Well, they didn't like Dave. They didn't like Dave. He didn't play ball with them. He didn't toe the line. He didn't do the caucus thing. He was a wild card. I mean, he did what he wanted, and so he never really endeared himself to any of the Republican leadership. And at the end of the day, you still had the Eric Cantor factor going on, and they wanted him out, and so Dave is out. As simple as that. And but look, what you just said is very interesting. I just want our audience to understand this, why I'm so optimistic right now about 2020. So there were 26 congressional seats or districts that Hillary Clinton carried in 2016 with Republican.
Not to be a nitpicker, 24,
Congress.
but yes,
24. I'm sorry. There were 24 seats. The Democrats won back 21 of those, right? So the Republicans only held 3 of those seats. So if they gain, let's say they gained 33, I think that's what they'll end up with. 21 of those seats are in districts that Clinton carried. Many of the Republicans retired or stepped down or whatever, but they were successful in that. Those are the ones they had to win. They were able to get the people out, and they did win them. Now let's flip it, and let's go to 2020, Sam. 2020 rolls around. The Democrats are going to have about a 12-seat majority, right? So rather than 23, the Republicans need to pick up 12 seats. 15 of the seats now that the Democrats have, 15 of those seats are in districts that Trump carried in 2016. So now it flips. And if you look at the 202 or 3 or 4 seats that we have, whatever it ends up being, those aren't going anywhere because those Republicans survived, Sam, in the so-called mini wave, whatever you want to call it. They survived this cycle. They're not going anywhere. All the never-Trumpers got wiped out. All the moderates are gone. All the old retirees that are mad at Trump, they're all gone. So you have very few seats here that are vulnerable, save those 3 they held, and I wouldn't see why they wouldn't hold them a second time.
Yeah.
But you've got 15 seats right off the bat in districts that Trump carried. All of those Democrats are going to come under fire in 2020. Well, look, am I right?
Look, let me give you 2 examples. I'm talking to you from New York City. We lost 3 seats out of this state. I thought we can keep all 9. Now we lost 3 out of the 9 Republicans. But, John, there are 2 seats which I guarantee you we will win back in and this is in New York, that we will win back in 2020. One was Staten Island. We had a Dan Donovan on Staten Island, and he was out-campaigned, out-fundraised, out-organized. For instance, if Steve Bannon and I went to do an event there, we went to do an event in Staten Island, and he didn't even want to come there with us. But what I had heard and what we had seen through our private polling was that he was polling 15 points under Donald Trump in that district. Donald Trump was not going to go to Staten Island, right, Steve, for the midterm. So
right.
He doesn't show up. He gets outspent. He had a primary, and he lost that race. He lost by a point. Another race, which was almost the inverse, and was another problem, was a Dave Brat type race, was Claudia Tinney in New York 22. They didn't give her enough money to CLF. They spent more money on John Faso, but they didn't give her John Faso race, which was like John Faso was another, Paul Ryan type Republican. But one thing also, that's a race, that's a seat I think we can pick back up, and I think that here's 2 quick points though too. The first point is, as you were just saying, John, we've cleaned out the moderates. We've cleaned out the Paul Ryan types in the House, too, okay? Because Paul Ryan is not a bad guy. I'm not here to disparage him. Not a moderate either, but he's just not, he's not a Trump type. He's a Romney type, let's say, a Romney-McCain type. And those people, no matter what, this party, those 202, John, Republican congressmen, those are Trumpers. Mm-hmm. Those are Trumpers. And then in the Senate, I think we have a couple problem people. We'll have Mitt Romney. I think Mitt Romney's a big problem, frankly. Mm-hmm. I think personally Mitt Romney had the best night because he wins the Senate seat, and he also loses the House seat out of Utah. We lose the House seat out of Utah. Can you imagine this? This is insane with Romney winning by so much. Don't tell me Romney didn't want that. And by the way, John, there's somebody to watch because I worked for him in 2008. Nice guy, fine. I saw the way he was in 2012. That's when I went to go work for Trump. And I believed in Trump, and I saw Trump at CPAC, and I compared it to him. But John, you don't have to be a genius to know that this guy ain't going to the Senate to be the junior senator from Utah without bigger plans. Right. And those plans include Robert Mueller and Jerry Nadler and Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff. He's on their side. And he already came out and defended Mueller after Sessions was replaced. But In general, the president has a very strong relationship and alliance with Mitch McConnell. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I love Cocaine Mitch now. And I think that this party, the president's in a very strong place for 2020. And sometimes one of the things is with Donald Trump, sometimes it's good for him to have a loss because I think that he becomes better and better as things go on. In other words, it was good for him to lose Iowa, and then in the 2016 primary. And then it was good for him to go on that streak where he lost those caucus states,
right?
Because he was able to clean up and then win these northeastern states and go into and see what he did wrong in the Midwest, and it made him a better candidate.
Yes,
for the general election.
I agree with you. You know what, Sam? That is absolutely spot on, man. That everything you said is great analysis, and I want to thank you for that because it is going to make him better. It is going to make him tougher. And I think we're in really good shape going into 2020. And again, I don't want to underemphasize the fact.
And you and I, we're not sitting here as happy,
No, we're not happy.
That are on Fox News.
Yeah.
We're political people.
Yeah.
I can tell you that we would have, John, if Donald Trump had not taken this election on his shoulders, made it the national referendum, we would not have won. We would not have had a net gain in the Senate, and we would have lost more than the 35, let's say, House seats. I think we would have lost 60. I think we could have lost 55 to 60.
He stopped the wave, and what I'm liking about this is we put ourselves in position to win in 2020, win everything. That's why I'm excited about it. There's no way they take the Senate in 2020. They might take 2 Republican seats, maybe Cory Gardner in Colorado. But with Scott, we've got 53. Doug Jones is toast, not going to win. That gives us 54. No. They're going to need to win 5 seats or 4 if Trump loses. If Trump wins, they're going to have to win 5 seats. Not going to happen. The map doesn't work for them. So I'm pretty optimistic. And, there's at least one Democratic senator we can knock off, and that's New Hampshire.
And the other thing, John, is the best part of Tuesday, Florida is a separate issue. I'll get into it if we have time. Ohio is Trump country, man.
Yeah,
Ohio is Trump country. I don't think the Democrats should campaign there at all. I mean, I hope they do. I hope they spend a lot of money in Ohio. But did you see the governor? We had a terrible gubernatorial candidate, and he won by 5 points.
Yeah, he still won.
And we kept every single House seat, and that's even with the senator there. The senator there doing well. I think that Florida's a separate issue because they decided in their infinite wisdom to allow felons to vote. I'm interested to see what happens. But I still think at the end of the day, with the economy doing the way it's doing, you're going to have Rick Scott, Ron DeSantis, I think that the president will be able to carry that state too.
I think we win Florida.
Now, we have a new map, and the map is going to come down to the industrial Midwest.
Right, and we can also win
2020.
States we didn't win in 2016. We can win, include New Hampshire and Minnesota. Sam, I'm out of time. I got to go.